The National Football League has seen its fair share of criminals. We've seen players arrested for assault, drugs, and reckless driving. But the unwritten rule of professional sports has always been that the violence stays within the boundaries of a chaotic lifestyle. But in November of 1999, an active first-round NFL draft pick broke every boundary of human decency. He didn't just get into a bar fight. He didn't just get caught with drugs. He coldly, systematically orchestrated the execution of his own pregnant girlfriend. And he did it for the most sickening reason imaginable. He didn't want to pay child support. If you ask an NFL fan about the darkest crimes in league history, they usually mention Aaron Hernandez or O.J. Simpson. But what Rae Carruth did on a dark road in Charlotte, North Carolina, remains the most chillingly premeditated act of evil ever committed by a professional football player. If you clicked on this video, you know that fame and money can turn arrogant men into monsters. But the story of Rae Carruth isn't just about a murder. It's about a heroic, dying mother who used her final breaths to expose a coward in the unbelievable moment the FBI found an NFL millionaire hiding in the trunk of a car, terrified of the world he had just destroyed. This is the unforgivable true story of Rae Carruth. To comprehend the sheer, mind-boggling arrogance of the crime, you first have to understand the pedestal that Rae Carruth was standing on. In 1997, Carruth was the golden child. He was an explosive, blazing fast wide receiver out of the University of Colorado. The Carolina Panthers drafted him in the first round. They handed him a 4-year, $3.7 million contract, which in the late 90s was absolute superstar money. His rookie season was brilliant. He led all NFL rookies with 44 catches for 545 yards. He was playing alongside franchise legends like Kerry Collins. He was wealthy, famous, and treated like royalty in the city of Charlotte. But behind the highlight reels, Rae Carruth was developing a lethal god complex. When you hand a young man millions of dollars and surround him with people who refuse to tell him no, the lines between right and wrong begin to blur. Carruth believed he was untouchable. He believed that the rules of normal society simply did not apply to him. In 1998, Carruth met a 24-year-old woman named Cherica Adams at a pool party in Charlotte. She was vibrant, deeply loved by her family, and entirely independent. They began dating casually. But soon the situation changed. Cherica became pregnant. For a normal human being, this is a life-altering event that brings responsibility. For Rae Carruth, it was viewed as a financial inconvenience. Carruth already had another child from a previous relationship, and he was already paying $3,000 a month in child support. Despite his massive NFL contract, Carruth was bleeding money through poor investments and a lavish lifestyle. He demanded that Cherica get an abortion. He pressured her relentlessly, but Cherica refused. She wanted to be a mother. She wanted her child. And in the twisted, arrogant mind of Rae Carruth, this refusal wasn't just a disagreement, it was a threat to his bank account. And he decided that the unborn child, and the woman carrying it, had to be eliminated. Instead of stepping up to be a father, the NFL wide receiver decided to become a mastermind. Carruth knew he couldn't commit the murder himself. He was too famous. He would be the primary suspect instantly. He needed a ghost. He needed someone willing to do the unthinkable for a handful of cash. Enter Van Brett Watkins. Watkins was a massive, violent nightclub bouncer with a long, terrifying criminal record. Carruth approached Watkins and offered him a sickening proposition. He would pay him $6,000 to shoot and kill his pregnant girlfriend. $6,000. That was the price a professional football player placed on the life of his own child and the woman carrying him. They planned the execution meticulously. They recruited 2 other accomplices, Michael Kennedy, who would drive the getaway car, and Stanley Abraham. The plan was cold-blooded. Carruth would take Cherica out on a date to make her feel safe. On the drive home, he would lead her into a trap. On the evening of November 15, 1999, Carruth took Cherica Adams to a movie theater to see The Bone Collector. Cherica was 8 months pregnant. She was glowing, believing that the father of her child was finally stepping up to be a part of their lives. They left the theater in separate vehicles. Carruth drove his white Ford Expedition. Cherica followed right behind him in her black BMW. They drove into a dark, winding residential neighborhood in South Charlotte. The trap was set. As they approached a desolate stretch of the road, Carruth suddenly slammed on his brakes, bringing his massive SUV to a complete stop directly in the middle of the road. Cherica, confused, hit her brakes and stopped right behind him. She was boxed in. Suddenly, a Nissan Maxima pulled up perfectly alongside her driver's side window. Van Brett Watkins had rolled down his window and fired 5 rounds from a .38 caliber revolver directly into Cherica Adams' car. She was struck 4 times, in the neck, the chest, and the abdomen. As the bullets tore through her, Rae Carruth hit the gas and sped away into the night, leaving the mother of his child bleeding to death in the dark. But Rae Carruth made one fatal miscalculation. He underestimated the sheer, undeniable willpower of a mother trying to protect her unborn son. Cherica Adams didn't die instantly. Drowning in her own blood, fighting for every single gasp of air, she managed to grab her cell phone and dial 911. In her final moments of consciousness, she didn't just ask for help, she detailed exactly what had happened. She told the dispatcher that Rae Carruth had intentionally stopped his car to box her in. She told them that he drove away. Using her last ounce of strength, she handed the police the entire blueprint of his betrayal. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. Doctors performed an emergency C-section, working frantically to save the baby. Miraculously, the baby boy, Chancellor Lee Adams, survived. But because he had been deprived of oxygen for so long while his mother bled, he was born with permanent brain damage and cerebral palsy. Tragically, Cherica Adams slipped into a coma. 4 weeks later, she passed away. But her 911 call was the ultimate final act of heroism. She had saved her son's life, and she had destroyed Rae Carruth's carefully constructed alibi. When Carruth realized Cherica had survived long enough to name him, the arrogant multi-millionaire superstar became a terrified fugitive. He skipped bail and went on the run. The FBI launched a massive national manhunt. They finally tracked him down to a Best Western motel in Tennessee. And in a moment that perfectly encapsulated the pathetic cowardice of the man, the FBI didn't find him holding hostages or engaging in a shootout. They found the former first-round draft pick hiding in the trunk of a Toyota Camry, shivering in the cold, clutching $3,900 in cash, and surrounded by bottles filled with his own urine. The trial was a media circus. Carruth's defense tried to argue that the shooting was the result of a drug deal gone wrong, but the jury saw right through the lies. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 18 to 24 years in prison. His NFL career was erased. His legacy was destroyed. Rae Carruth was released from prison in 2018, having served nearly 19 years in a concrete cell. But the true legacy of this story does not belong to the murderer. It belongs to Cherica's mother, Sandra Adams. Sandra took in her grandson, Chancellor Lee, and raised him with unimaginable love. Despite his cerebral palsy, Chancellor Lee grew into a smiling, thriving young man. In a profound display of grace, Sandra forgave Rae Carruth, not for his sake, but so she and her grandson could live free of the hatred he brought into the world. Rae Carruth thought he could buy death for $6,000, but in the end, he was defeated by the unbreakable love of the family he tried to destroy. Rae Carruth was a millionaire who thought his NFL status put him above the law, but he wasn't the only superstar in the late 90s to find himself at the center of a horrific murder investigation. In the year 2000, immediately following a Super Bowl party, the face of the Baltimore Ravens defense, Ray Lewis, was charged with double murder. He eventually beat the case. The media moved on. The NFL forgave him. But what really happened in the shadows outside that Atlanta nightclub? If you want to know the unwritten truth about the evidence that disappeared and what they didn't want you to hear in court, click the video on your screen right now. You won't look at his legacy the same way again.